Hello, I'm Martin Tyler along with Alan Smith. Well, if you're a football fan, these words are etched into your minds and heart all your life. We're talking about the greatest football commentator of all time, the man who's seen and covered over thousands of games, and certainly from day one from the Premier League. We're talking about Martin Tyler, who joins us straight from London. Welcome to the show, Martin. You've been a television commentator, you've coached a football team, you've even acted in a Hollywood movie. What is it that Martin Tyler can't do?
Stay young, I think, is the one thing I can't do. Hopefully my voice stays young, and my enthusiasm for football, my obsession with football stays childlike in some ways, really. I've never forgotten the feeling of going to my first game, and it's something that's always stayed with me. I've never taken for granted the good fortune that I've had in my career and my time in and around football. And it always, it seems like an out-of-body experience sometimes. It's that lucky guy's doing it, and I know it happens to be me.
Martin, you spoke about the childlike enthusiasm. Just take us through what excited you as an 8-year-old football fan to a legend with Mike.
Still my favourite football club, even though I parted company with them as a coach in the last month. But that's another story. I wasn't very athletic at that age. I was quite small and tubby, but I had some sort of inherent ball skills because on my mother's side, they were cricketers in what we call the minor counties over here. But my grandfather played, I think, 1 or 2 first-class games, and my uncles and my great uncle and various other cousins, I think, all played for Cheshire in minor county cricket. Your cricket fans over there might understand a bit more probably than if I explained it over here. And so I was brought up with a ball in my hand, really. And the family game was cricket. The second family game was hockey, field hockey, which obviously also India has a great tradition in. But the truth is, football was always, for me, as if I wanted to have something for myself. I don't really recall it like that. I just loved football. I played in the park with my mates. I was a bit chunky to get in the school team. I think I played once for the primary school, but I wasn't bad. And when I got a bit thinner and taller, a lot taller at about, 14 months ago, about, a foot, I think, I became small and tubby and tall and thin. And in the end, the football came with me. I wanted to play it. I wanted to watch it. I wanted to talk to people about it. I wanted to meet the people in it. And I can't explain where it came from, but it came. And I've just been so lucky to be able to take opportunities to make a lot of my dreams come true. I didn't play any league football. I played non-league football. I would love to have said to you, I played in the Football League, but I was in the top non-league league at the time, except I wasn't one of the top players. There were some good players who went on to play in the old First Division, but I was one who spent his time trying to be as good, but I never was.
Well, a fan has sent us a clip between England and Australia, and this is a vintage footage of 1987. Is it fair to say you're the longest serving women's cricket commentator in the world today?
It was a very occasional. I grew up with cricketers. You might know this. You might be about to ask me. I had, by complete fluke, 2 test captains sharing a flat with me in South London in the 1970s. The late, great, much lamented, much missed my friend Bob Willis, who I went to school with. And we ended up moving out of suburban Surrey, where I'm back living now. But we moved into South London because he was contracted to play at the Oval for Surrey. And so we went into this flat together in 1970, September 1970. By November 1970, he was out of the flat because he'd been called into the England squad for the Ashes in Australia and left me holding a bit more rent because obviously he was going to be away for 4 or 5 months. And then he came back for a while, then he changed counties and left the flat. And Jeff Howarth, who then became captain of New Zealand, moved in. And there was one wonderful occasion in the late 1970s where Bob captained England and Jeff captained New Zealand in a test match at Lord's. And you can imagine how I felt. And I was there. They smuggled me into their ground. I can tell you that all these years later. When my two flatmates went out to toss a coin at the start of a test match. So, but the cricket commentary, I did some county championship matches in the 70s and 80s, the Roses games. And I did do that game at Lord's. I'm not sure I did it particularly well, but it was a pivotal game for the ladies' game, the women's game in this country.
Martin, you've had excellent time with Bob Willis, who was your former roommate in the early 70s. What was he like, and what did he address you as, your nickname?
Well, it would be Dylan. No, he was always Big Bob to me, and he called me Zapper, though, because while we were sharing the flat, I got an ankle injury playing football. We played in the same football team together. He was a goalkeeper. I got an ankle injury, and the only way to solve it was to immobilize it. So I was put in plaster. And at that time, Frank Zappa, the musician, fell off the stage, and his leg was in plaster as well. And anyway, they ended up calling me Zappa. There are still people out there in the cricket world that I see who call me Zappa. And Jeff Howard calls me Zappa, and Bob always called me Zappa, bless him. So, that's something that you've wheedled out of me. I didn't really know we'd be talking about things like that. But so yes, I have a lot of contact with cricket, but football's my passion, my real passion. I found playing football much more satisfying than playing cricket because I was an opening batsman, and if you were out in the first over of the game, which I was from time to time, much as I enjoyed fielding, I wasn't much of a bowler. So in the end, I felt as a footballer, if I had a bad game as a footballer and I was a striker, I could still score the winner in the last minute. And be a hero. So I got more value for my exercise and my efforts by playing football.
Moving on to the next question. If you've shared such a great rapport with the former players, what about Sir Viv, Sunil Gavaskar and Ian Botham?
Well, my memories are, my head is so full of football facts. The cricket facts have to, I'm afraid, have to be looked up. I do have lots of wisdoms up here. But I remember, because of my privilege of being a flatmate of these great cricketers, I just occasionally meeting them. I met Ian obviously quite a lot because he was around the scene with Bob a lot, and I did go to one or two parties where Ian was there, and he was always the life and soul. So. And of course, he went into commentary and became a big star in commentary on the channel that I work for, Sky Sports in the UK. And the other gentleman, I can remember meeting him around, being struck by how wonderfully polite he was, and what a hostile player to play against, I'm sure. A really nice person, and I've followed from a very great distance the fact that he's done so much to try and improve the world, and I congratulate him on that. So just personal memories, and nothing that they would ever remember, put it like that.
Well, Martin, you've seen the Premier League from day one, and it's been 3 decades. What excites you every morning to get up and do the commentary for Premier League, day in and day out?
I think the game. When you prepare the game with great detail, you then wonder what's going to happen. There's this mystery of all the different elements. Who's going to be the hero? Who maybe is going to be the person that makes the mistake that changes the course of the match? How will the tactics work? The teams now do a lot more preparation than I could possibly do on each fixture with their tactical approach, their data analysis. But you still go in with an idea of that's maybe their game plan and that's their game plan. And hopefully, you watch it unfold. And I love that. I think the game itself and the people who play it, I've always found team sport a wonderful lifestyle choice, because you're only as strong as your weakest link. You have to work together. You can have maybe the best players in the world, and it doesn't make a team. It's that special feeling. And television's the same, as you well know. In television, we have to have the team around us. Maybe at times we're the ones that are known. We're the ones that maybe that actually showcase all the work that everybody else has done. And I always feel that the most important people in television are the cameramen and the directors, because it's vision. The words come secondary. You know, I'm not a radio commentator. I've done a little bit, but only to help other people out, to be honest with you. And I think the cameramen, and you know, I get asked a lot about the Sergio Aguero goal, but have a look at it. You know, the words. I'm pleased that people are still talking about it, and they are, believe it or not, every week I have somebody stop me in the street and ask me to do it, and it's difficult. I can't do it really, because you need that adrenaline rush that happened at the time. But I think the pictures around that goal, the match director is a guy called Tony Mills, who does international coverage now, and may well have worked on some of the games that you've seen in more recent times, because he's left Sky Sports since more recently than 2012, but he was the man there on May the 13th, 2012. And that shot of Joe Hart running around, scarcely able to believe what has actually happened, summed up the way the whole country was feeling, the whole world was feeling about it. And certainly the pictorial evidence is I think, more relevant than the verbal evidence, to be honest with you.
Well, Martin, this is a fan question, and they ask us, what does it feel like to be Martin Tyler, who's given so much of joy and happiness to the football fans across the world?
I think anybody who wants to follow along the pathway, I say two things. One, it's a lot easier now because there is there's a proper educational pathway for media students, broadcast students, which certainly wasn't when I started. I just got lucky. And the training is detailed. I do some talks myself to students about the way I go about my work. But the simple truth is you have to want to do it. It sounds crazy because there are degrees of want, aren't there? You have to really, really believe that that's your career path, because there'll be setbacks along the way. First of all, you can never do a perfect commentary. So if you go in there thinking, I'm going to come away, every third or fourth week going, I've cracked it today. It doesn't work like that. Maybe 3 or 4 times a season, you'll think that was okay. The rest of the time, and I've been doing it nearly 50 years, the rest of the time you come away going, why did I say that? Or why didn't I do that? And all your best lines come into your head when you're driving home, So but the pursuit of perfection it's great. And that's what keeps me going, I guess.
Well, it's a hypothetical question. What if you were to lose all your name and fame? Would you still have that childlike enthusiasm going to the football match?
Yes. I haven't been put in that position, thankfully, but I'm sure I would. I look every day, what are the games on locally to me? I have a background in non-league football, as you know, starting as an 8-year-old fan, played in non-league football. I've coached in non-league football. So, we have a wonderful pyramid in this country, which joins up now, which it didn't when I was playing, actually. It sort of started the moment I stopped, which was a shame because we didn't have any promotion and relegation. And now it's there for everybody. A local team about 15 miles away from here, won promotion on Tuesday night with 7 or 8 of my friends playing, and that including Paul Merson's son plays, and Paul is often around the place, the former Arsenal and England player, and he loves it, and we just I hate to use the word addiction because that has other connotations. It's a feeling you can't scratch.
Martin, what is that one moment that you cherish a lot in your life on the football field?
It's really difficult because as a commentator, you always look forward.
Yes.
I'm talking to you while prepping the England game coming up in this international break. So I'm not looking back at what I last did. And to put that into context, I'd probably have to stop to be able to. I don't want to stop. Somebody will want me to stop, that's for sure. And I hope the person is me, really, because I guess I'll know maybe earlier than anybody, but I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not. It's nice to think that, but I'm not sure it's true. So I would say the moment I was asked to do my first commentary was the pivotal moment of my life in my professional life. And at the end of that game in 1974, the match director and producer, who was not a football man, was a light entertainment man, a very educated English man, said, well done, old boy. We've got another game in a couple of weeks. Would you like to do that? And my punchline on that is, people have been saying, we've got another game. Would you like to do that ever since? So I suppose that first time it was said triggered everything else.
Well, you've acted in movies, you've been an announcer and a commentator. What is the difference between the three?
I don't do much announcing. I have done a bit, but basically I do some voiceovers, which is in a different tone to commentary. But as a coach, I don't know. That was another part of my life, really. So I think I don't have to switch. It's just getting up and doing something different. It could be. It's not work, but obviously it's connected to work because it's around the same subject. I've been very lucky to. I mean, I suppose the time where it really struck me was when the two worlds collided. Were at Woking, I think, was it 3 years ago? We drew Watford in the third round of the FA Cup. So I was talking to players as a commentator 3 weeks before I went to see Watford. They said, you can't come in, you can't, because you're coaching. And I said, no, I've come here to interview you for television. And they were teasing me, Ben Foster and Will Hughes and Tom Cleverley and people like that, and then Troy Deeney, who was obviously Mr. Watford, So the game comes and I'm in our dugout. In fact, I had to give the team talk to the players about Watford because obviously I knew a lot about them. And I got teased because I said, well, Nathaniel Chalobah's not played very much. He played for England, but he's not played much for Watford in this particular season. And then afterwards, our players said, how can you expect us to think? And he played for England and we're playing against him today. And to Nathaniel, I obviously, I was just trying to wind our boys up to be a bit more optimistic, not to denigrate him at all. So, that day was special because Troy Deeney actually came on as a substitute, and we had a bit of banter in the dugout during the game as well. And he came on, and we were 1-0 down, and he scored the second. We lost 2-0, so he had the last laugh and deserved to. I mean, they deserved to win. But I suppose that's as close as it got to being two worlds.
Well, Martin, who's been your most favorite partner in crime with the mic?
Do you have children?
Yes.
Do you have a favorite child? No. So don't ask me that question. They're all my children, and they're all different. And I do, at my age, feel that I can be a bit paternal and look after them. And at the end of a match, and this is absolutely true, I'm not spinning a line just for you and your audience. I always say, have you enjoyed it today? Was everything okay? Because I feel it's part of my responsibility to make sure that they enjoy the game. I've been doing the broadcasting side a lot longer than they have, so I should look after them. And they can certainly look after themselves as broadcasters. But they all have a special place for me, and whoever it is, I enjoy working with them, and they're part of my flock, if you like.
Well, any talk with Martin Tyler is incomplete without the famous 2012 Aguero moment. Just take us through the day. How did you prepare? How did you anticipate the outcome of the match?
I said before the game that this could be typical City, which was the fans were saying, they've been built up so often and been let down at the last. And it was a game, of course, that had two sides to it. Queen's Park Rangers they thought, it didn't happen that in the end, but they needed something to stay in the Premier League. And they were managed by Mark Hughes, who was a former Manchester City manager, and of course a Manchester United playing legend, wanting to help Manchester United win, but most of all wanting to help QPR stay in the Premier League. So there was a possibility of typical City. And half-time, Pablo Zabaleta scored and looked like he was sending them on the pathway that they expected to go down. And then Mark threw caution to the wind, and they got their 2 goals. And it did look. I remember thinking during the game, well, there'll be no presentation here, so I hope in fact, I think Alan, who you've had on your program, Alan Smith, was up at the other game, and with Rob Hawthorne, and I think I know Rob's a consummate professional, so I'm sure he's got all these details for the presentation, because that's quite a serious broadcast, at the end of it. So they're going to have the presentation at the Stadium of Light. Manchester United are going to win it. I remember thinking that during the game, and then obviously things unfolded, and it was a matter of keeping up with Tony Mills's brilliant direction. There was, if you look at it, it could have been post-produced. It was so brilliantly timed, where we had the shot of the Man United players looking at the monitors up in Sunderland, and then he pulled out to the wide shot of us and Balotelli next to the ball, and you know what happens next.
Well, sticking on to that match, it's that Mackey goal brings them together on 2-2. What was going in your mind when finally Aguero gets the ball from Balotelli?
No, there was Edin Dzeko who was scoring for Jamie Mackey had scored for QPR, and I understand he was a goal scorer in the game. Edin Dzeko, and then you sort of think, I don't know, it's hard to remember what I thought at the time. I've been asked so much about this. One thing I can tell you for sure, when the ball went to Aguero and he took a touch on the ball, I knew he would score. Whether that's just football, I don't know, watching football, playing football, instinct. I just knew. And if that enabled me to draw breath into my lungs to utter what I did utter, maybe, I don't know. But it wasn't, there was just a fraction of a second where I knew before he did it. And I've told him this, and I don't think he knew, but obviously he was a great player, and sadly, I wish he was playing still. I'm looking forward to seeing him coming back to Manchester, I believe, on the anniversary, on the 10-year anniversary, coming back, and hopefully I'll be there as well. So, I can't say much more than that, and except that the noise was incredible when the ball went in, which is probably why I didn't speak. Because I've only ever done television, I've never really worried about periods of silence, whereas I think radio, if you have a background in radio, we have a tendency to say something straight away. But the noise, no one would have heard it if I'd said anything. The noise was deafening. So when I could get back in again, I did. And listen, it was instinctive. All commentators will tell you, thank goodness you didn't make a mistake. That's a natural commentator's feeling. Thank goodness it was Aguero and not something when I shouted his name. But yeah, listen, I've done millions of matches, probably literally not quite a million, but tens of thousands, and to be remembered for one is I think because the match is so memorable. I do swear you will never see anything like it ever again.
Well, after the match, it was told that it was the loudest football match in the world in the last 5 decades. Is that true?
No, it was Mark Hughes who said it. The next day, I was at the League Managers Association dinner, which always happens on the Monday after the last Premier League game. And I walked in, and he, it was amazing. In the hundreds of people there, he was the first person I saw. And I said, well, how are you? Well done. You stayed up. And he went, and then he said to me in that conversation, that's the noisiest moment in the football ground he'd ever heard. Now, this is Mark Hughes, who played at Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Man United, international football, managed a really high level for a long period of time. If he said it, it's good enough for me. And I think that is something that ought to be factored into the day, that it created the noisiest moment in the football ground that a football legend had ever heard.
Well, there you heard it from the maestro himself talk about his 5 decades of rich footballing experience. In the second episode, Martin Tyler joins us as he talks about the future of England football team and Chelsea's impending issue. Keep watching Footcast Social only on NewsX. This is Sunil Yash Kalra signing off for Footcast Social.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.